Welcome to Conversations with Barbara. I'm Barbara Kanellopoulos. My guests today are members of the Falmouth Immigrant Rights Coalition. They have come together to tell us about the important work that the coalition is doing to support our friends and neighbors who are immigrants. Welcome to the program, and thank you so much for coming. I'm going to start with, by letting you introduce yourselves. We'll start with Sandra Faiman-Silva.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sandy Faiman-Silva. I've lived in Falmouth since 1984, and I'm happy to be with you today.
Yeah, and you're chair of the coalition.
Yes, I am chair of the Falmouth Immigrant Rights Coalition.
Yes.
My name is Jerry Lanson. I've lived in Falmouth for 7 years, and because my background's in journalism and teaching journalism, I've been trying to help with the media for the coalition.
Hi, I'm Debra Kattler. I'm a relative newcomer. I've been in Falmouth for 3 years, and I'm a member of the coalition, and I've been working on setting up the Luce Hotline Verifier Hub, which I'll talk more about.
Yes, yes.
Hi, I'm Milene Chioatto. I'm an immigrant from Brazil. I live in Falmouth for 27 years. I'm involved with the Brazilian community, immigrant community in general, because of my job as a social worker.
I'm going to start with you, Sandy, and maybe you can tell us how and why the coalition came into being.
Yes. Actually, we started shortly after the election, back in late November or December of 2024. And I think people began to see, it was very uncomfortable what was happening with immigrants in our communities. And it happened at a Falmouth Democratic Town Committee meeting that were discussing immigrant issues. And I believe I proposed that we set up a committee to decide how we could work on behalf of immigrants in Falmouth.
So you're chair and one of the founding members.
Yes, and it was since then that we sort of built our coalition. I began personally by educating myself on immigrant issues. I found a website called the MIRA Coalition, MIRA, which is the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, and they have a website that has a lot of material, reference material we could download and print, educational material on all sorts of issues related to immigrants in schools, immigrants accessing legal assistance, and confronting the immigration crisis at that time. And I became familiar with webinars that they had. They were about hour-long webinars in several languages where you could learn about the issues around Know Your Rights with respect to immigrant rights. They also had Know Your Rights posters and flyers that could be distributed both to immigrants and to allies, and red cards. And these are cards that are printed on both sides, one of which informs the immigrant about his or her rights under the Fourth Amendment, for example, or the Fifth, the right to be silent, for example, the right to call a lawyer, and the other side notifies the ICE official who may be at your door what rights the immigrant has. Immigrants have been carrying these cards around. They really help them protect themselves. So that was another stage, and people in the Democratic Town Committee and others around town joined and began to come together. We decided to start holding meetings. We created a name for ourselves, the Falmouth Immigrant Rights Coalition. We have a little logo that we now have. And the first step that we took really was in early January. We had a meeting with the police chief in Falmouth Police, Jeffrey Laurie, to ask him about his position on encountering ICE. as police personnel. Because in 2019, Falmouth had passed a resolution at town meeting that was a Secure Communities resolution that detailed what the official legal relationship was between a federal agency like ICE and Homeland Security and local law enforcement. And essentially, local law enforcement really has nothing to do with ICE activities. They are not legally responsible for doing the activities that ICE does. They are two separate entities. And the resolution that we passed at town meeting detailed the fact that local law enforcement is specifically responsible for just that, for protecting and serving the people of Falmouth. And they are not responsible for any ICE activities except in circumstances where under the law they must act. Again, in the context of this resolution, and the former police chief had a pamphlet that he had produced detailing this relationship, Chief Laurie did affirm that yes, he too agreed that local law enforcement does the work of local to help with the citizens of a town and the residents of the town, and is not responsible for implementing ICE's agenda.
So I would gather then that the work of the coalition is to offer practical advice and information to immigrants to help them understand what their next step should be.
Yes, and then we began actually shortly after that meeting with Police Chief Laurie to really systematically distribute literature
Yes,
throughout
yes, yeah.
Falmouth to businesses, non-governmental organizations, schools, English language learning, teachers and students and so forth.
Faith
And
communities.
Jerry, you're concerned with communication, not only with passing out information, but dealing with misinformation.
Yes, I think one of the things which is certainly not, it's so important that Sandy and others started early, because we've seen in this country, and I read a great deal of news because that was my background, we've seen an escalation. I want to just pause for a moment to say that, because I'm going to turn to what Donald Trump said in a minute, that I believe that immigrants make this country better, much better. My father was an immigrant from Germany in the 1930s, escaped from Hitler and the Nazis, and came to this country. Immigrants make us better by doing things like putting the roof on my house and by inventing Zoom, which was done by an immigrant, by the way. So I want to start by making that point. But one of the things that's happening now in terms of misinformation, disinformation, I try to keep tabs on what's been happening locally in Massachusetts and nationally, and I do write about it, both sometimes in letters and op-eds to the local paper, and also have a Substack, which I
Yes.
encourage other people to
Yes.
do too. Yeah.
We ought to mention the fact that people can subscribe to the articles that you have on Substack.
They can. Yeah,
Good.
it's free. Anybody who wants to read them can. But there's really two issues right now. One of the issues is who's being arrested or abducted and deported. That's one. And the other issue is how this is happening. And we're seeing more and more, in the first case, that when Donald Trump was elected, when he ran for office, he said that he wanted to arrest the criminals who were immigrants who'd come into the country illegally. In fact, that's not what's happening in this country. The statistics that are put together by ICE itself, right, which is the government agency that
Yes.
arrests and deports people, were reported in a conservative publication, by the Cato Institute, and they noted that 65% of those who have been picked up by ICE have no criminal conviction, and that 93% have no violent or serious criminal cases against them. That mostly the issues of those others between the 65 and 93 often might be a traffic stop. We've all had a traffic ticket, right, in our lives. So that's a very important thing to note. Another thing that is, I think, a real concern today, which we saw in Falmouth, which we saw on the Vineyard and on the islands as well, is that ICE will come into the community, and it's been seen everywhere. ICE comes into the community, and it's driving unmarked cars, often with tinted windows. The ICE officers are not showing identification. Some of the ICE officers are wearing masks. And quite honestly, they are intimidating and in some cases terrifying members of this community. That's dangerous for everyone.
Yes. Given what you said, you would understand why the coalition is working hard to let innocent immigrants who have no reason to be deported, to tell them what their rights are, which is so important because in many cases they may not be aware of the importance of, say, due process. So let's turn to Debra to talk about some of the practical information and practical help that the coalition is working hard to give to vulnerable people.
Right. So as Jerry mentioned, things have really ramped up, as we all know. And, immigrants are being criminalized. And so back in the early part of this year, a group of grassroots and immigrant-led organizations set up a hotline in Massachusetts. And, I think other people have mentioned that we know that this is designed for fear, this whole ramping up. It's not really to make our community safer. So the Luce Hotline is an organization that I picked that name, and I think if I go over the acronym of Luce, it'll tell you a little bit about what this organization is about. So the acronym is for Liberation, Union, Community, and Hope. The hope is, the E is in Luce is for hope in a lot of different languages besides English.
Is that Spanish?
Spanish, Portuguese, there's a lot of,
L-U-C-E.
I was going to try to pronounce it in Portuguese, but I decided against that.
Esperança.
Okay,
Esperança.
yeah,
E for hope.
Yes.
Esperança.
thank you. So, and in a lot of Indo-European languages, there's a word that is similar to the sound of the word that means light. So the idea is that we are bringing light to our community as well as shedding light on what ICE is doing, so that they can't operate in the shadows. So that's what they're about. And so what we've done is we've partnered with them and we've set up verifier hubs. So what that means is we have a group of trained individuals who can go out when we receive an alert from the Luce hotline and observe what's happening. So we can verify. Our first job is to verify. And we had an example in Falmouth where we were called to a parking lot where someone had called in. They were alarmed. They had seen a couple of buses with a lot of men in fatigues. And when we went out, we found out that it was a group of military, guests to our town, basically, who'd been invited for a night out on the town in Falmouth. So that person was able to get that information. The person who called it in was relieved to find out that it was nothing. And so we were able to quell that rumor.
Yes.
Now, but it also highlights how scared everybody is,
Yes,
and how
yes.
unusual
Yes.
what is going on.
Right.
That people see our military who are going about their business and are terrified and calling into the hotline.
But it also points out that this routine, this method is quite successful, that you were able to find out that the bus was not anything to worry about.
Right, exactly. And so if we go out to the site and we verify that in fact ICE or other federal agents are there, then our role is to bear witness to what they're doing and to document it so that we can provide that documentation, which can help people win their freedom from detention or, potentially deportation.
Now, how does an individual member of the coalition have the ability to do this? Is that we have the members have some of the forms with them that they can then pass out to?
Yes. Yeah, that's absolutely right. If we get to a location and perhaps nothing's happening, we can take that opportunity to canvass in the area and let people know.
I see.
And share the Luce hotline number with them, which, I'm asking the viewers to take a picture of the slide that has the phone number on it and put this phone number in your phone. And if you see something in the community, you can call that hotline number. There will be trained operators who will collect information from you about what you're seeing, but they will not ask you to identify yourself. So it is safe to call. So we hope everyone in the community will feel safe to use the hotline. And then they will call the verified team that we have set up here in the Upper Cape. And we will go out and verify and witness and document what we see.
Yeah. It seems to me and to others like a very effective way for all of us to help this situation, and so let us perhaps we can get printouts of some of these forms, particularly the phone number, and I think that will be on our screen, so viewers will be able to copy that down, and that's the important step, that loose phone number.
Right, and I can say it, 617-370-5023.
Right. Let's repeat that.
617-370-5023.
That is the
Wish it was
loose
an
phone
easier number to remember, but
Yes,
that is the
yes.
hotline number. So put it in your phone so you'll be ready to call
Yes,
if you see something.
yes.
We'd appreciate it.
And let's turn to you to find out what your connection with the immigrant community. How are they feeling, and what are they thinking and saying and doing?
Well, immigrants are very scared. They never know when they're going to meet and find a agent. Because of what Jerry says, that there's not a lot of criminals, so they are knocking on doors. They were knocking on doors. They learned about their rights. They stopped answering the door, and now the agencies are waiting for the people to come out of the houses to go to work, and then they arrest them with a phony reason, like you say, like having a ticket or running a stop sign or something. So they are sometimes they're looking for somebody, they get a neighbor just because he came out of the house sooner. So the community is trying to do as much as they can to not be so visible. They go from home to work. Sometimes if they see there is ICE, they don't even go to work. So they're trying to protect themselves, and they don't come out to see all this wonderful work that we're doing, to help inform them, because they're not even coming out to participate.
That is a problem. One wonders what an immigrant would be doing if they're taken away and they have family left.
The immigrants that are here, they're really working, raising their families, buying houses, buying cars. They came here to have a better life. They're not going to get in trouble. They pay taxes. The government gives them a number with a specific goal to pay taxes. So they want to prove that they are contributing to the country. In case there is a path to citizenship, they can show that they've been contributing. They want to become a part of the community. But currently they are scared, and what we see is that when somebody gets arrested, a lot of people suffer because the person that makes the money, the bigger paycheck, is not there anymore.
Oh, yes.
And we need to support these families with financial help, services, legal services, to find out how to.
I see. So there's a role that donations can play
Yes.
here. How would that go about if people want to donate?
Through the Falmouth Human Services is an agency that connects people with services
Oh, yes.
and counseling, so they can have those referrals to other agencies and also somebody to talk to in their own language.
Excellent.
And the Falmouth Service Center has been very helpful with the financials, paying rent, paying
wonderful.
a bill, electric bill, a utility bill, helping them pay their mortgage sometimes, because some of them own their own homes. And they also have a food pantry, the Falmouth
Yes.
Service Center. And this is in our community, in Falmouth. They've been very good, so I suggest to donate to the Falmouth Service Center. You can donate clothes to the Hand in Hand store that they sell to benefit the Falmouth Service Center.
Good.
You can also donate food or other items, and they will revert to the community in general. But right now, financially, the immigrants are needing a lot of help from them.
Yes.
And in Hyannis area and in Yarmouth area, we have the Brazilian Resource Center. They don't have so much of the financial, but they have a house where they can speak their language, they can apply for insurance, they can, they have a small food pantry that contributes to also, and they have a clinic, like if you are hard to get to your doctor, you can go there for an emergency or urgency, and they can also treat the people there.
When she mentions the fact that the Falmouth Human Services is there to help, that kind of encourage us to believe that our town government is very supportive, certainly supporting what the coalition is doing. What evidence do we have that our town government is concerned and?
Well, actually, the Select Board is currently undertaking a sort of an investigation into what the town can do.
Oh,
and
good.
they are in the process of setting up a community meeting where all residents of the community can come and talk about the crisis and what can Falmouth do to help alleviate the pain and suffering of immigrants who are detained innocently and are entangled in an ICE encounter. And the rest of us, allies, what can we do to continue to make sure our town is safe? And I did want to mention that another service that the Falmouth Human Services provides is legal aid, legal assistance to immigrants. Immigrants are required to complete a lot of paperwork to document who they are and what their history is with respect to the immigration process. And if a family member is taken by ICE, and that person is the breadwinner of the family, that creates a huge crisis in the family economy. Or if both parents are taken, there may be minor children that need care. So we, different organizations, including our organization, has produced family preparedness literature where we have lists of items that immigrants must have on their person or at home to document their status as an immigrant and to make sure that their children will be cared for. So there are child advocacy documents. Some of these have to be notarized, and there are lawyers that will sit down with immigrants, and we have interpreters so that they can discuss the preparation of all of this material in their own language, so that if ICE does come to their door, they know what materials they will need and they have them close at hand. And I think that's, right now, that is a very important part of the work that members of the community need to be doing.
That's very encouraging that there's that kind of support. I want to turn to you, Jerry,
Yes.
to ask a question that might be on everybody's mind. if are the agents, the ICE agents, so inept that they are picking up innocent people, or is there a larger design here?
Well, I don't have the inside scoop on what ICE is thinking. It's certainly my perception. I mean, it actually, just this Wednesday, NBC News, and I'm going to quote it here so I don't get it wrong, had a headline that said, "Despite promises to remove the worst of the worst, ICE has arrested only 6% of known immigrant murderers." So that's quite something. If they're arresting, if 65% of those who are arrested have never committed any kind of crime, and if they know of people who've either committed a murder, or the article, the piece also spoke about sexual assault, why are they not picking up the people? I think an answer might be it's harder. It's very easy to arrest an 18-year-old Milford volleyball player on his way to a practice on a Saturday morning at 7:30 who's an honor student than it is to arrest an actual criminal, of which there are a few.
Yes.
And so, I mean, if I can just add one other thing, or go away for 1 minute, Barbara, I wanted to add one other thing that I think is very important is we've talked about all the ways that we are helping in our organization to inform the immigrant community, but we also need to inform our overall community, the people who are watching this show,
Yes.
which is, first of all, these, as you started out by saying, these are our neighbors. And these are the people who are helping us with landscaping, with building houses, with cooking in restaurants, with small businesses. The list goes on. And these are people who, without them, the town, and one of the selectmen said this at the June 16th meeting, the town is starting to see its construction industry slow down because people are either leaving or hiding right now or being taken. It's not good for this community. This community has many, many immigrants who are contributing and working very hard to be part of the community, and they are part of the community. So I do want to say, if I could, that I think that people watching maybe don't want to get involved with the Falmouth Immigrant Rights Coalition, but you're still concerned about what's going on. There are many ways to do this. You can write a letter to your congressman. You can write a letter to your selectman. You can write an op-ed or start your own Substack.
Letter to the editor.
Yeah, letter to the editor. Certainly, there are many, many ways that people can get involved. You can join the protests that take place every Saturday in Falmouth on the town green. It is important for the residents of this community to recognize that our elected officials in this community and throughout the country of both parties will only speak out, and certainly we've had more Democrats speaking out than Republicans, in my view, to date. But both parties, responsible people, should be speaking out more than they are. And that will only happen if citizens and people in the public are upset enough to make their voices heard and to do so on a regular basis. And so I think that's a very important point.
It is. You point out that everyone has a huge stake in this.
They do.
It's not just those who are connected with immigrants, it's all of us.
Yeah. Well, I know Sheriff Buckley, who has been very courageous and outspoken, our sheriff, a law enforcement officer, stood in front of the select board last week and said on a number of occasions, this is not normal. And it's not only not normal, it's potentially dangerous to our community because you have heavily armed people who are not identifying themselves. And I worry about a situation where that could really get out of hand.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
If I can say something, there's also a lot of families that have mixed citizens and immigrants. So that that is another reason that citizens should start speaking up more if they can, and contribute with their money also and their voices to protect those people that sometimes they have a parent that's immigrant, but the kids are American.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's a lot of different kinds of families.
Yes.
I'd like to add that whatever went, the rights that are being trampled on for immigrants are rights that everyone has, and once those pillars fall, that puts all the immigrant
Yes. Yes.
community as well as everyone else at risk.
Yes. Yes.
We don't have First Amendment rights, if we don't have due process, it's dangerous.
And too often in history, people remain silent until they discover it's too late, that their own selves are involved. So we must. I was going to ask you, Debbie, too, what other means you have, Debra, that you have taken to make people much more aware of what's going on. You have, is there some using perhaps the art of immigrant art to kind of let people raise awareness of the issue?
I'm glad you brought that up. There's a wonderful show that has been put together by a gentleman named Mauricio Cordero. He's out of Boston, and another artist who's out of Hyannis has been working very closely with him. His name is Craig Florence, and they've put together a show called Border X, A Crisis in Graphic Detail. And this show was in April, the month of April. It was at the Cordial Eye in Hyannis. And basically what it is, it's artwork from immigrants around the country talking about their experiences at the border. And some of the pieces are very big, they're like comic strips, and they're very beautiful, to look at. The subject matter is very difficult, but it's a wonderful show. And so I met Craig when I went to see the show and told him I would love to bring it to Falmouth. Yes. So it looks like we're going to be able to put it in the Falmouth Public Library, the main branch, in January, and I'm super excited that we can bring this important work to Falmouth.
Sometimes the language of art is more persuasive than our spoken voice or our written language. Yeah. So good luck with that. I'll be looking forward to seeing that.
I hope we'll get some TV coverage for it too.
This reminds me that the Falmouth Immigrant Rights Coalition has created several subcommittees, one of which is an events subcommittee that Debra is co-chairing. And so we are bringing some other events, possibly a film series, and we have other subcommittees that people in town may want to join, including a family needs subcommittee that is going to be working on how do we meet the needs of families whose loved ones have been taken by ICE. And following the trauma, how do we keep in touch with these families and help them, direct them to the Falmouth Human Services or other agencies and organizations in town where they can get the help they need. So we've actually created 5 or 6 different subcommittees. We have over 275 members of our committee, and we are continuing to forge ahead with getting factual information to people and helping to do the service work that we think is essential.
One of the fun ways that people could contribute is that we have tabling at different events, and we share a lot of the information that Sandy talked about at these tables, and we ask people to take it and share it in their own neighborhoods, share it with immigrants that they know, and it's kind of fun. You're hanging out in the community at an event, and you're talking with a lot of people who are supportive and interested in helping. So that's another way people can get involved. Come help us at a table.
I would think along those lines, too, that people who are active, I know that you've already done that, both of you have been phenomenal in the ways that you've reached out and signing new members up. But the people who are watching and perhaps are part of a community forum or have a group or organization so that where they might bring some cards, they might talk about the issues, that it wouldn't necessarily, they'd have to come to our event, but they
Right.
could get our materials and take it to their own event within churches, et cetera.
We do
Yes,
have a
exactly.
speakers bureau. That's one of our subcommittees. So if you are interested in having a speaker, we will find somebody,
That's good.
possibly me, but we will find others as well to do our little dog and pony show and tell you about what we're doing and so forth.
I don't know, Jerry, if you've encountered this particular dilemma. Some people say people who are here illegally should be deported. And I know that the language of immigration language has changed, and to say that people are undocumented, I don't think the difference is just a euphemism. I think there's a huge difference between illegal and undocumented.
Yes.
And
Yes,
illegal
words
makes
matter.
people think that somebody sneaked into the country and is up to no good. But sometimes, so I'll let you, you've thought about that?
Well, I think it's clear that words matter, that people, in some cases, are here undocumented, but there also are many cases here of people who are being arrested, who are the tough student in Somerville, who's
Yes.
picked a PhD student, taken off the street in front of her apartment, who had a visa. The Columbia student, who I believe had a green card, who spent the last 3 months
Right.
in Florida in detention, and regardless, I mean,
They
there are
were
many
not
books
here
written.
illegally.
Well, it's still not illegal. I mean, if somebody comes into the country, it's not a crime. It is a civil offense.
It's a civil infraction.
Right,
Yes.
and they are undocumented, and they often have gone to incredible lengths in order to build better lives for their families, and they work and they pay taxes, and I mean there was a case that was truly tragic this last week, reported in the LA Times, of a man, I believe he's a landscaper, he'd been in this country more than 20 years, had 3 sons who've been Marines. They are U.S. citizens. And he was violently apprehended by ICE. Now, he did probably come into this country as an undocumented individual when he came into the country, if I read it correctly. He has lived here for more than 20 years. He has worked. He has raised 3 citizens' sons who have served in the Marine Corps. Is that not the kind of Americans we want?
Yes.
That's, the notion somehow that there are immigrants and there are us, everybody except for the indigenous people in this country are descended from immigrants.
Yeah.
My mother's parents were immigrants, my father was an immigrant. And there are many, many other people here,
Sure,
and
all of
who are in that
Yes.
situation.
I wanted to make a point, though, about that in the work that we do, we aren't judging the people.
Yes.
Like, it's not our role to decide who is worthy of care and who isn't worthy of care. We recognize that, our systems in this country are unjust, and, the prison system and the carceral, well, I think that's the same thing. Our justice system is not applied evenly.
Certainly our immigration laws
And our immigration.
need to be studied and revised.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's a very important point you're making, that this is not to judge. Certainly inhumane treatment of anyone is wrong. Is that pretty much the point?
Yes, and that, yeah, exactly. And that we're not in the roles that we take in sharing information, in providing witness to what ICE may be doing. We don't know what the situation is. We don't know. And
see.
it's not up to us to judge, to decide. We have a role to play.
Okay.
And we also know that even people who may have, some kind of record, it might not be justified. Like, we don't have a completely equal justice system. Some
Yes,
people
yes.
are treated differently. put it that way.
It's also important to note that ICE says, it's a different point, and your point's a really important one. But it also is true, because I personally saw her interviewed on PBS, that the public information person for ICE is consistently putting out inaccurate information in the media. It conflicts with ICE's own records
Yes.
that are being revealed by people like
Yes.
the Cato Institute and NBC News. And so when you're dealing with an agency that basically operates in the shadows, who's the criminal? I'll leave that as a question.
It's also, I think, a problem that the media and informal life in the informal community, people tend to deal in stereotypes and tropes that overgeneralize who immigrants are, what their past is, and characterize them as dangerous or evil or menacing.
And that's very often inflamed by president's rhetoric.
Yes, unfortunately. And the rhetoric of others in the media and in local communities that, again, are rooted in prejudice and bias that I think we have to work against very intensively if we ever are going to solve some of these problems that we're facing today.
That's right. When you have a quota that you have to arrest this many people, they're not asking questions. They just, that's why a lot of people have documents, but they don't even have the chance to show I'm illegal. I'm still applying. I have a court date to go. I'm doing my part to become, documented. But they're not asking any questions.
They're arresting people in the immigration courts.
Yep, exactly.
In New York City and Boston.
It is. It is
when they go in for a hearing.
Yes.
Right. They cancel the case and then
They're free to go.
they're free to go and then.
Yes.
As you point out, if there's a quota, then, as you were saying earlier too, they're going to choose anyone, I guess you'd call it low-hanging fruit.
Exactly.
The number I heard was 1,800 to 3,000 a day around the country in May.
They're seeking to arrest 3,000 a day.
Right, it went up from 1,800 to 3,000.
Yeah. Which is almost 5 times as high as it was in the first 100 days of the Trump administration.
Interesting.
So it's an astonishing number.
And we're certainly hoping that as people, allies, potential allies, become as informed as possible of some of the details of what actually is going on and the frightening experiences that innocent people who came into this country, walked across the border, committed a civil infraction, and now can be subject to summary detainment and deportation to remote countries around the world that are rogue states that do not have a civil society, a civil functioning government, or a legal system. And this is where we are sending immigrants who are innocent of any kind of wrongdoing other than simply coming across the border and seeking a better life for their families.
Yes. And some of those nations have deplorable situations in prisons, which is simply not right. Is the coalition also have many allied groups, political groups in the Upper Cape that you work with?
We do, yes. We actually have an affiliate called the Cape Cod Coalition for Safe Communities, CCCSC, which is it's an organization that was founded during the first Trump presidency with respect and aimed to protect immigrants, and was resurrected when he was reelected last fall. And CCCSC is working in partnership with our organization. They operate mainly from the Mid-Cape to the Outer Cape, and they have done a lot of work with faith communities, immigrant faith communities, providing resources and legal assistance and hosting webinars, Know Your Rights informational webinars to immigrant communities in their native language, which we also have done here in Falmouth. And we have Indivisible is an ally,
Yes.
Cape Cod Women's Coalition, and No Place for Hate groups. We have a very strong base of support
Oh, that's
throughout the
very
allied community.
And really encouraging, very encouraging that that we're sort of all together.
Yes, and people are, extremely concerned.
It's a
We
strong
want
community.
to turn, the ship of state around. And we are moving in, as Jerry mentioned, as all of you have mentioned, we are just moving in a very, very dangerous direction toward lawlessness, toward oligarchy, dictatorship. We really have to do some deep, deep thinking and reflection on how can we move this into a direction that we can be proud of as Americans and as citizens. We all happen to be citizens of the U.S. And work on behalf of those of us who are not fortunate enough at the moment to have that piece of paper that says we are full citizens. But even if you are a resident of this town or this country, you do have rights, and people need to know what those rights are, and they need to actually be executed every day of the year.
Well, I want to thank all of you very much for coming together to talk about this very important subject. And before we close, I wonder if there are any last words that something that perhaps we have not mentioned that you'd like to tell viewers.
I had something.
Go ahead.
I was just going to mention, first of all, that I forgot to say that the Luce hotline does answer calls. They have operators who can answer calls in a lot of different languages.
Oh.
So that's something important for
Yes.
our immigrant community to know. And I wanted to read a quote. Is it okay? If you
Yes.
mind? So this is from Masha Gessen, who I learned yesterday, their nephew, I believe,
Yes.
is
Yes,
Dan
yes,
Gessen
yes.
from our own Falmouth.
Yes.
But they are a Russian immigrant journalist and author. So Gessen writes, "You can't take action without hope, but you also cannot have hope without taking action."
No. Well said. Very well said. Especially at this time where so many people feel as if there's nothing they can do, they have no hope.
Yes.
So, will you say that again?
You can't take action without hope, but you also cannot have hope without taking action.
Yes. Yeah. And,
Indeed.
and any comment that you would like to say?
I think that's very important because we sometimes shy away from, talking, speaking up or doing something. So I urge people to kind of get involved the way you can,
Yeah.
or even donate to an institution that's going to help everybody.
Good. And
I think community and working together is our best hope, and it's also our best hope for action. But we are seeing, because of the action, for example, of the No Kings protests on June 14th, our elected officials being more vigorous in tough ways. Alex Padilla was handcuffed, the senator from California. So was the controller of New York City, who just ran for mayor. Our own congressional delegation, 9 representatives, 2 senators, just wrote a 6-page footnoted letter to the Inspector General of Homeland Security, demanding to know these extraordinary actions that have been taken by ICE. So we're starting to see, and our own select board is going to have a hearing, and I hope will take measured action that shows their support of the immigrant community that is so important in our town.
yeah, that's very encouraging. Well, I thank you very much for coming to this session and for all of this very important information. And I want to thank viewers for tuning in, and special thanks to our volunteer director, Marilyn Rowland, and to Gail Manna for her willingness to volunteer behind the cameras. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you next time on Conversations with Barbara.